Good morning, everybody. Table. Now you can see me. Hooray! How are we this morning? Are we good? Right, here we are on the iPad this morning. Well, I hope you're doing well. So yesterday in Wales, a bit of excitement maybe. We had announcements that school was going to be heading back in a couple of weeks. And if you watched what the Minister, Kirsty Williams, said, she used a little bit of a phrase, didn't she? Kept repeating it, that when you go back to school, it's all going to be about catch up, check in, prepare. And that got me thinking, is that something that we could just do in our own lives? Catch up, check in, prepare. Yesterday we talked a little bit about prayer, didn't we? Praying to God, keeping connected with God. And that is how we can catch up and check in, isn't it? Catch up, check in with God. It's just having a chat with God, isn't it? Through prayer. But what about the prepare bit? Well, one of the things I know I'm going to miss about this summer is no sports day and no Olympics. So don't worry, we can create our own fun, and we are going to do our own alternative Olympics, which even the cat is going to join in with. Or maybe not. Right, what do we do with our alternative Olympics? Well, one of my favourite things are when you get the sports which are like the decathlon, the heptathlon, and I thought we would look at the pentathlon. Do you know how many events are in a pentathlon? It's 5, that's right. Okay, so in the pentathlon that we are going to recreate, well, we're going to try and more or less, oh, this cat, we're going to try and more or less keep up with the sports that they have. So the first sport that they do is swimming. Now we can't go to a swimming pool, and to be honest, the weather's a little bit cold now for a paddling pool. So we're going to do a water race instead. So the idea with these Olympics is that you can either challenge yourself or challenge someone you live with, a sibling, a parent, anything. Have a bit of fun. Create your own. But here are my ideas for the first one. Right, Holly is going to... I'm going to flip it around. Holly can film me, okay? Great. Okay, so the first one is the water race. So, what you want, and this is a good one, you either time it or you do it as a challenge against someone. And you need a small container and a big container. And if there's 2 of you doing it, you both want to have one of these each, or take it in turns and time yourself. Now, to make this challenge even harder, you could use like a plastic cup and put holes at the bottom. I've got some good old bath toy ones here which have got holes in the bottom. So the idea is that you have to, actually you need a third one of water. We'll just tip it into here, that's fine. You've got to race. I'm going to place this bowl over here, and you have a start line over here. I'm going to take my shoes off so it's split. And then you have to see who's the quickest person to be able to fill up that bowl over there with their little cup with maybe a hole in it. So it's a bit of a race. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole thing because I haven't got enough water and we're on out of time, but just to give you an idea. Okay, so I'm just going to make a mess. Right, so you fill it up and then do that, and then you come back and you fill it up again, which I haven't got any water, and you go along and you fill it up, and that is our equivalent of pentathlon swimming. They did it 200 metres in pentathlon. Now, what do we know about the Olympics? They have their Olympic rings, don't they? So for each of these 5 sports, I'm going to draw one of the Olympic rings. And the first one we'll do is the one in the middle. And that is a black ring. Thank you, Kat. So, these 5 Olympic rings we can use to remind ourselves something about being a Christian. Now the first ring, that one in the middle, is coloured black, and that colour of black always reminds me of sort of dark things, and it can remind us of sin. And we've talked a lot about that and how that shows that we're falling short of God's standards because of just the way that we are as humans. So that's my black ring. Right, the next sport is going to be equestrian show jumping. Now, equestrian show jumping. So that's when you're on your horse and you've got to go over obstacles. So basically, this is just like an obstacle course. So you can do whatever you like for this one. Have a bit of fun. I've set up my Ninja Warrior style assault course here. So this is going to be my example of my equestrian. So again, good to do this one timed in races, just see what you're going to do. Okay, so here goes mine. Got to go over the ladder of doom. Climb over the stools of death. Down the terrace slide. There we go. Woo. And over the spinning log. Woo. There we go. So that is my equestrian show jumping. And for that one, let's do, I have to remember which order these rings come in now. We'll do the red one next. Right, remind myself. Okay, red one. Okay, thank you. Right. The red one comes here, like that. Now that red one reminds me of Jesus' blood, which he says he shed for us on the cross. So that cancelled out that sin. So that's a good one. Oh, I'm a little bit out of breath. Right, our next pentathlon sport is fencing. Now fencing could get a little bit dangerous if we really went for fencing. So instead, we're going for the badminton. But what you could do, there's lots of different things. What you could do is the one where you just have to try and tag without being tagged back. Because that's kind of like what fencing is. But instead, I'm going to pretend this is my fencing sword. And we're going to just go, ooh! And Holly can't hold the camera and do the fencing at the same time. So that is my fencing challenge. You come up with your own variation if you like. So what's our next ring going to be? Let's go for the blue one. So that comes here. So the blue one reminds us of baptism in water. Maybe we'll talk about this again. But baptism in water is the symbolic thing that Christians do to show that their sin has been washed away. So that's our blue ring. Okay, right, next sport is, now Kash, you're going to have to move for this one. Next sport is pistol shooting. Goodness me, well, how do we do that safely? So instead of pistol shooting, we're going to do any sort of game where you have to try and get something in and aim something. So you could do the one we did before, throwing socks into the wash basket. You can scrunch up balls of paper into a paper bin. Or this one, which I'm going to try and do, is bouncy balls or ping pong balls, something like that, into a selection of cups. And you can like give them different scores, that sort of thing. So furthest cup might be worth 50 points, this is worth 20 points. You get nothing for hitting a cat, so he has to go out of the way. Right, okay, let's see what we can do. Okay. Oh, rubbish. Okay. Oh, bouncy, alright, that definitely counts. Bouncy ball's a little bit hard. Ping pong ball's probably better for this. I didn't think I had any. Oh, rubbish. Okay, so my 3 goes there, I got 1 point. So that's my 4th pentathlon sport. Let's do the green then. So the green ring comes down here, and the green ring reminds us of like new life, isn't it? Growth. Like we'll probably see the grass going green now with the rain that we've had. So that green ring reminds me of the new life that we can have in Jesus. Okay, final one was cross-country running. And I didn't do running, so we're not going to do anything for that one. But you could do a little running race, couldn't you? Around the house, around the garden, anything you want to do to represent the running. So that gives me my final ring, which is the yellow one. And that reminds me of, yellow kind of reminds me of like the sun, and gold, and things like an eternal city. So the sun is eternal, and it just reminds me that what we can have with God is eternal life, because Jesus died for our sins and gave us new life. So it will be an eternal spiritual life with God. So I don't think Olympic rings look too shabby there, but when you see those Olympic rings, you can remember these elements of what it is to follow God. Now, what did we say? It was check in, catch up, prepare. And prepare is just goes to show all these Olympic athletes, we're going to have to wait another year, aren't they? But they prepare really well. They train. Now, I have my flute here. Now, when I was about 11, 12, I learned the flute, but I haven't had any lessons since I was, I don't know, about 12, 13. So let's see if I can remember how to put it together, but can I remember how to make anything sound out of it? Oh. A bit rubbish, aren't I? You know why? Because I haven't practiced in a long time. So even though I learnt how to do this when I was younger, without practice, I've become a bit rusty. And it's the same with being a Christian. You might have learnt some stories when you were younger, particularly your parents. You might have heard about things. You might have thought it sounded quite interesting at the time, but you haven't kept up with it and you haven't practiced it. And so we get a bit rusty. And so preparing and keeping training is an important part of following God. And there is a verse in the Bible, in Hebrews, and it tells us that we should run with perseverance for the race marked out for us. So we just keep going. It isn't something, the Christian life is a race. It's something which doesn't just start and stop and end. It's something that we keep going and we need to keep training for. And how do we train as a Christian? Well, reading the Bible is good. It reminds us of all the promises God has for us. Praying, check in, catch up. That's really important as well, because it gives us the opportunity to hear from God of what He wants us to be doing with our lives. And what can we do as well? Meet with other Christians, be that through a church or doing a course. You know, we've got a course starting at the chapel called the Alpha Course. That's starting in just under 2 weeks' time. And that's a really good way of just asking some of the questions. If you're not quite sure how to do something, like if you're learning a new instrument, you have to ask, don't you? You've got to find out. And that's what the Alpha Course is great for. Ask those big questions that you're not sure about God, and why does God exist, and how do we know that He exists, and can we trust the Bible? So there we go. There are my Olympic rings. Check in, catch up, prepare. Let's have a bit of fun. You can plan your own mini Olympics sports day for this weekend. Get a bit of training in, because we've got to train hard, haven't we, to get our prizes, get our goals sometimes. There we go. So I hope you have fun. Stay safe, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye.